Start.
A very good afternoon to everyone. This is Rashdeep Bawaya and today I am going to present my topic, the pulse of journalism, Shashi Tharoor's article and press freedom realities in India. Next. These are the informations. Next. Table of contents. Starting from questions to be addressed, followed by introduction, Shashi Tharoor about the article, what is freedom of the press, the importance of a free press in democracy, freedom of speech on paper versus in reality, state pressure and self-censorship, impact of electronic media, media ownership and bias, the rise of fake news and misinformation, the role of media in combating misinformation, finding the truth, investigative journalism in India, the risks faced by investigative journalists, possible solutions and the role of civil society, conclusion and references. Next. Questions to be addressed. What is freedom of the press? How essential is a free press for the functioning of a democracy? How does the reality of freedom of speech differ from its theoretical ideals? How has electronic media influenced freedom of speech and press in India? What role can civil society play in safeguarding press freedom and addressing media challenges? Next. Introduction. In India and how it aligns with the insights provided by Shashi Tharoor in his article Freedom of the Speech. In recent time, there is one debate going on among intellectuals that how much freedom should be given to the media or it should be under control of government. But on the other hand, some people argue that he will make media only a puppet in hands of government. For a healthy democracy, freedom of the press is very important. It is a requirement of the time. For a democratic nation, media or press is a fourth pillar apart from the legislature, executive and judiciary. Next. Shashi Tharoor. Shashi Tharoor born on March 9, 1956 in London, United Kingdom and raised in India. Tharoor graduated from St. Stephen's College, Delhi in 1975 and culminated his study in 1978 with a doctorate in international relations and affairs from the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy, Tufts University. He is a politician and public intellectual who has been serving as a member of parliament from the Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala since 2009. He is the present chairman of the Standing Committee on Chemicals and Fertilizers. He was formerly an Under Secretary General of the United Nations and unsuccessfully ran for the post of Secretary General in 2006. Next. Founder and chairman of All India Professionals Congress. He formerly served as a chairman of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on External Affairs and on Informational Technology. He has about 24 titles to his credit and was awarded by a World Economic Forum as a global leader of tomorrow. He is best known for his works, the great Indian novel India from Midnight to the Millennium, Why I Am a Hindu, and Inglorious Empire, What the British Did to India, first published in India as an era of darkness, the British Empire and in India. Here is Shashi Tharoor's speech in Parliament.
There is a tragic irony in the government's claim to success when desperate young people are queuing up to risk their lives in Israel in the middle of a war because they have no decent work in India. If Mr. Adani and Mr. Ambani walked into this chamber right now, every MP would discover that our per capita income has gone up. Right? But claim to success when desperate young people are queuing up to risk their lives in Israel in the middle of a war because they have no decent work in India. If Mr. Adani and Mr. Ambani walked into this chamber right now, every MP would discover that our per capita income has gone up. Right? But the moment they leave this room, we will all revert to reality. That's the problem with using per capita as her guide. Let's begin with the UN. There is a tragic irony in the government's claims of success when desperate young people are queuing up to risk their lives in Israel in the middle of a war because they have no decent work in India. The unprecedented levels of unemployment have left countless citizens, especially our young workforce, with few prospects for a brighter tomorrow. Self-employment is unpaid family labor, which is disguised unemployment. Experts reckon that the growing army of self-employed in any case constitutes very low quality unemployment, and unpaid workers have increased from 40 million in 2017 to 95 million last year. You can call them self-employed, but unpaid workers are not counted as employed by the ILO International Labour Organization. Now, the share of agriculture in total employment has gone up, which is an indication that there are not enough jobs available outside of agriculture. To this, the government offers schemes like Skill India as a palliative. Skill India has set out a goal of skilling 40 crore workers by 2022, but if you look at the grand total trained under the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, it is 1.3 crore, not 40 crore. And of that 1.3, only 24 lakh people have been placed in jobs. Skill India has been a failure, sir. The workforce share that was formerly vocationally educated trained in 2012 was 2.3%. In 2023, after 10 years of this government, the share has gone from 2.3 to 2.4%. What did we say? Congratulations. We have to ask the government, kiska saath or kiska vikas? The question again brings me to yet another aspect of the government's underperformance, woefully ignored in the Honourable Finance Minister's speech. She said people are getting better, average real income, she said, has increased by 50%. The first is no data available on individual household income. So how does the government say it's increased by 50%? If she's merely talking per capita, as not a direct comparison, as per capita GDP will go up on the basis of people who are rich at the top of the pyramid without actually affecting the incomes of those in the bottom. If Mr. Adani and Mr. Ambani walked into this chamber right now, every MP would discover that our per capita income has gone up. Right? But the moment they leave this room, we will all revert to reality. That's the problem with using per capita as her guide. So let's look at the Garib. I'm looking at each of these caste quotas that she mentioned. The government claims it made 25.
Presentation. Next slide. About the article, freedom of the press is written by one of the most prominent Indian politician and writer of modern India, Shashi Tharoor. This article was published in the Hindu on 4th May 2003 and it was on 3rd of May, which is known as the World Press Freedom Day. When he wrote this article on the same day, he reminded that 12 journalists have been killed just this year, according to the Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ, a New York-based independent non-profit organization. All over the world, journalists are jailed, attacked, and harassed by every day. And this data is only as of May 4, 2003. By the end of 2003, 60 journalists and media workers were killed, and out of them 3 were from India, according to the CPJ. In 2024, 23 journalists and media workers killed. Next. What is freedom of the press? According to Shashi Tharoor, freedom of the press is the mortar that binds together the bricks of freedom, and it is also the open window embedded in those bricks through which we can all see the world. Meaning that freedom of the press or freedom of the media is the fundamental principle that through various media including printed and electronic media, especially published materials, should be considered a right to be exercised freely. It refers to the principle that individuals and organizations have the right to publish, print or circulate information and opinions without government interference or censorship. Throughout the world, World Press Freedom Day, observed on May 3, serves as an occasion to inform the public of violations of the rights to freedom of expression and as a reminder that many journalists crave death or jail to bring people their daily news. Next. The importance of free press in democracy. May 3 marks the anniversary of the Declaration of Windhoek, a statement of principles drawn up by African journalists calling for a free, independent and pluralistic media in their continent and throughout the world. The declaration adopted in 1991 at a seminar organized by the United Nations and UNESCO in Windhoek, Namibia, affirms that a free press is essential to the existence of democracy and a fundamental human goal. A free press is one of the most essential components of a democratic society, and there is no longer any serious debate about the proposition that democracy is essential for social and economic development. Next. The importance of free press is in accountability and transparency, informed citizenry, in which I have given example of Dhruv Rakhi's video on dictatorship confirmed, checks and balances, promotion of public debate and discourse, protection of human rights, in which example of Ravish Kumar's video on farmer protest face uphill battle. Sixth one is cultural and social development and strengthening democracy. Next. Freedom of speech on paper versus in reality. India's constitution under Article 19(1)(a) promises citizens the right to freely express themselves and share their ideas. This sounds great, right? In theory, it allows journalists to investigate and report on anything without fear. But here is the catch. There are other laws that can be used to limit this freedom. One example is Section 124(a) of the Indian Penal Code (IPC), also known as the sedition law. This law says that anyone who excites disaffection against the government can be arrested. Here is the example of Dhruv Rakhi's videos on dictatorship confirmed. Okay. So the problem is this law can be very vague. What exactly is disaffection? Can simply criticizing a government policy be seen as seditious? This uncertainty creates a chilling effect. Journalists might worry that even a balanced report critical of the government would land them in trouble. Reporters Without Borders' 2023 World Press Freedom Index ranks India at 161 out of 80 countries, which is not good. The Committee to Protect Journalists has documented several cases under journalists have been arrested under the sedition law for critical reporting. So while in India's constitution guarantees freedom of the press, there are laws that make it difficult for journalists to freely do their jobs. This creates a situation where press freedom exists on paper but can be limited in practice. Next. State pressure and self-censorship. Government pressure like threats of lawsuits or license renewals can make journalists hold back on critical stories. Fearful of trouble, they might soften their reports, avoiding anything that could be seen as too critical. This self-censorship weakens investigative journalism, according to a 2022 report by Freedom House. Here is example of News Laundry's video on how Lok Sabha 2024 is being pictured by TV media. Next. Impact of electronic media. The new hallmarks of development are the ability to receive, download and send information through electronic networks and the capacity to share information, including not only newspapers and journals but also online websites without censorship or restrictions. Thus, developing countries need to open up to the outside world, liberalize the mass media and resist government control and censorship of information. This year, the United Nations is organizing two major events that will stress the centrality of press freedom. The World Electronic Media Forum, convening in Geneva from December 9 to 11, will bring together media executives and practitioners from developed and developing countries as well as policymakers to discuss the role of electronic media in the information society. Next. In India, a large part of the mainstream media known as Modi media, which supports the ruling NDA and BJP government since 2014. But there are some news channels like BBC News Hindi, The Wire, The Indian Express, The Times of India and News Laundry and people like Ravish Kumar, Dhruv Rathi, Akash Banerjee of the Deshbhakt continue to deliver true news to the public through platforms like YouTube and X, also known as Twitter. Next. Media ownership and bias. Fewer companies now own more media outlets in India. This can lead to bias because these companies might favor news stories that benefit their business interest. Here is an example of Dhruv Rathi's video on how Adani tracked the NDT. Next. The rise of fake news and misinformation. Most of the social media platforms are breeding grounds for misinformation and fake news, making it harder for people to access truthful information. Here is an example of a BN news video on Truth of Farmer Protest 2024. Next. The role of media in combating misinformation. Responsible journalism acts as a shield against fake news by providing accurate fact-checked information from credible sources. Studies show audience trust established news outlets more than social media. By reporting transparently, journalists empower the public to make informed decisions and become savvy media consumers. Here is an example of Dhruv Rathi's video on electoral bonds. Next. Finding the truth. Investigative journalism in India. In India, brave investigative journalists fight to uncover the truth. They expose corruption like scams in school curriculums or social problems and don't give up even facing difficulties. Their work brings light to important issues and helps make India a better place. Here is again Dhruv Rathi's video example on dictatorship confirmed. Next. The risks faced by investigative journalists. Investigative journalists often face danger. Reporting on sensitive topics can lead to threats, violence, and even murder. According to the CPJ, journalists are killed every 4 days on average, with many targeted for their work. Despite the risk, these courageous reporters keep shining a light on important issues. Here is the example of Dhruv Rathi's video on farmer protest 2.0. Next. Possible solutions and the role of civil society. Protecting journalists and press freedom is crucial. Legal changes to outdated laws and better safeguarding for reporters can help. Civil society groups can also play a role by advocating citizens to critically evaluate a safer environment. For journalists to hold powerful people accountable. Here is again the example of Dhruv Rathi's video on dictatorship confirmed. Next. Conclusion. Shashi Tharoor concludes this article by saying, perhaps this is the newest challenge for the United Nations to work to bring access to information and the empowerment it offers to all the world's people. Only then will equity and equality be truly brought to the information revolution. Only then will the world's poor and unprivileged have a real way out of the darkness that shrouds their voices and their hopes. Thus, investigative journalists in India are heroes. They fight for truth and justice. Even when it is dangerous, to support them, we need a free press and a public that can spot fake news. Together, we can build a stronger democracy for all. And I will conclude by the words of Martin Luther King. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Next. Here are the references. Next. 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 I have also used AI chatbots of Google's Gemini and OpenAI's ChatGPT. Next. Okay, thank you everyone.